the near future.
Honourable Dr Ayesha Verrall.
Madam Speaker, today is a milestone day on the slipping away of New Zealand's healthcare system to one characterised by cuts, cold-heartedness and underfunding. And it is a day in which we remark on the broken promise of the National Government, who campaigned on building Dunedin the hospital that it needed. And it sought those votes with such a level of cynicism we see from what's been done today. The people of Dunedin need a new hospital. Their current hospital is unsuitable and it is unsafe. 500 instances of surgical equipment being contaminated every year. It is not a suitable place to be continuing treatment for people. It needs to be replaced. The scope reductions that will be entailed by what the government is embarking on will cause additional cost. That always happens when you build a hospital that is too small. It ends up costing you more down the line. But what I want to spend my time on today is the desperate political play that this government has done. We're seeing it here and we've seen it before. Let's go through it step by step. This report seems in many parts to be a very good report, the Rust Review. However, everything about the costings is blacked out. So I take no reassurance from the other side when they say there's being a $3 billion blowout. The word $3 billion is not in the report. It's nowhere. For those of you who got up with your government talking points and said that, go into the report and try and find it. This is a manufactured crisis about the cost of this hospital. The Rust Review says it probably could not be achieved within the existing appropriation. That doesn't mean certainly. That might mean it's a 50% probability or a 40% probability. But it is certainly not the case that the government has the right to claim that it's going to cost $3 billion. That is untrue. Where did this figure come from?
Who knows?
Well, I think if we admitted Chris Bishop to the gastroenterology department at Dunedin Hospital, we might be able to get a scope and find out where that $3 billion figure came from. Because it's utterly made up, and this is exactly the type of process we see when this government wants to cut healthcare. They make up a scandal. They said Health New Zealand was $1.4 billion over budget and they had to fire the board. They said it was because of back office bloat. They said it was because there was 14 layers of management. Well, we found out that was untrue. We found out they didn't have the organisational chart that Dr Retty said there was. We found out they actually hired more nurses and it wasn't anything to do with the back office costs. And they did that in order to justify cutting staff out of our health system, and that's exactly what's going on with Dunedin Hospital. They have put out a report, they are manufacturing a crisis, and then the worst thing is they're trying to play other communities off against Dunedin. That is so dirty. It's disgraceful. That's right. The fact is, if this government wasn't so reckless with its $2.9 billion tax cuts for landlords, there would be money to meet the needs of New Zealanders for their health care. If they weren't giving $216 million from Dr Foster's party to a single tobacco company, we would be able to give New Zealanders the health care that they deserve.
Come back to the bill, to the motion.
So this cuts to New Zealand's hospitals are about the choices, the bad choices that this government has made. This is a deeply cynical political playbook we see from them over there again and again and again. They made a bad budget, they made reckless decisions, they bought their way into government with tax cuts, and then New Zealanders are paying the price. And Dunedinites are being asked to pay the price, and all the communities of Otago and Southland that hospital will support. Well, kia kaha to the people of Southland and Otago. I learned a lot of lessons from those people as a medical student in the old Dunedin Hospital. And one of the lessons that they taught me when I was learning to be a doctor was to take responsibility. Well, this government needs to stop blaming other people for its problems. It needs to take responsibility. I'm looking forward to seeing all the people in Dunedin out on the street on the weekend, and we can expect that this government understands just how much the people of the southern region think that this is a broken promise.
Damn, she hit them with a flamethrower. They're going to have to be admitted into the burn ward.
Someone's commented earlier, really loving Ayesha lately, and honestly, I agree. She's really come into her stride as an opposition minister. She's been awesome to watch on the TV.
Yeah, she definitely gone from that heads down, tails up, get on with the job minister to being very, very fiery.
Mm-hmm.
She was not an MP I pictured to be a brilliant opposition MP. I pictured her as a great government MP, a quiet backbencher in opposition. I did not picture her to be as fiery as she is. And I mean, these are people who also know who probably go like, whoa, this is not the Ayesha we know.
Yeah.
Someone commented that it's personal to her, and I mean, yes, clearly it is. But I think that the health system should be personal to all of us, and it's one of those things. It's really nice seeing Ayesha getting really fired up about this up there in Parliament, because even though she studied here, she's not originally from Dunedin, and one of the things that we down here in Dunedin really feel is that the North Island barely knows we exist. In fact, we often find that North Islanders, when they talk about Dunedin, they know we have a university. They seem to think we're a small town. We have a whole city going on down here that most people just don't seem to know even exists.
Not to mention, Dunedin's supporting tons of smaller communities around us.
A lot of small communities around it.
Yes.
And
here's a random fact. I think it was Dunedin, but the old area code was 021. You'll probably know, Troy, because you're old enough to probably remember, was it 3-digit area codes and 5-digit landline numbers?
I remember 4-digit area codes, but I think 02 was... Maybe 02 was a target.
No, it was, there's a random one where it was 021 was either Dunedin or Invercargill. So it was the bottom half of the North Island, South Island was 02 something, and 03 something was the north half under the old, was it somewhere 6-digit numbers with 2-digit area codes, somewhere 5-digit numbers with 3-digit area codes. Like Shannon's area code was 067 back at the time, and followed by 5-digit phone numbers. But Wellington at the same time were 2-digit area codes followed by 6-digit phone numbers based on the exchange equipment they had at the time before they standardised everything into 7 digits in 1991.
Well, to be honest, I grew up in Port Chalmers, so I actually wouldn't know what our original area code for Dunedin was, because until I was 6 years old, Port Chalmers was a separate city.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't. So was also Waititi a separate city?
Yeah, it was a separate town.
Because I know they're one of the areas that have community boards.
Correct.
Laura
is right. Dunedin supports a lot of small communities around it, and a lot of those small communities are also not as small as North Islanders think. I mean, Gore, for example, Gore is around 11,000 people. Like, that's not small. Queenstown is 30,000 people. Oamaru is sitting on 10,000 people. Like, Otago's not a small place anymore, and I think it comes up later on in the debate that there has been a lot of population growth. Yep. But when we look at the statistics of population growth across Otago, in the most recent census, if we ignore the percentages and look at the actual raw numbers of people who moved to an area, Dunedin had the highest growth of any urban centre outside of Auckland or Tauranga. So it is growing, it is expanding, and one of the biggest problems that we're having down here is also that our population is aging.
Yes.
And we talk a lot about that in the news, but what people don't think about, in addition to our own population getting older, a lot of those people who are moving here are also already older, and they retire specifically to Dunedin for the nice weather in summer, or to Central Otago for the warm, dry weather, or to make wine. And so we've got this incoming, retiring to make wine is totally a thing.
Hey,
so
even Shortland Street has that as one of their characters.
I love me some wine and
TV
cheese.
Series about it, Under the Vines.
Oh, isn't it an Australian one?
It's filmed in Alexandra with Rebecca Gibney.
Oh, I thought it was meant to be an Australian show.
Australia is allowed to make shows in other countries.
Well, that is true. Yeah, no, because I do also know the person they've got playing the husband is a British actor who was also known for playing Martin Charteris on The Crown.
Yeah, and then the farmhand is Traitor Wiki, who does a lot of work at Silo and up in Auckland.